which they sent to every bishop in the nation. And they urged the bishops not to adopt the Common Core in Catholic schools and to withdraw it where it has been adopted. And what was their conclusion? They concluded that the Common Core standards as designed as standardized workforce training does nothing to shape and inspire the hearts and minds of children. That's what 132 Catholic scholars says. Common Core does nothing to shape and inspire the hearts and minds of children. I didn't make that up. These are the scholars. And I must tell you, if we want to use an example of a school system, we use the Catholic schools. I mean, you talk about the Seton Hall preps. You talk about the St. Benedict's preps. You talk about St. Peter's. You talk about Oratory prep. And you can go on and on with the prep schools that are Catholic run and how outstanding they're doing. I mean, many of us here in South Orange and Maplewood, we bypass Columbia High School and pay $12,000 to send your kids to Seton Hall prep. Or you may pay about $10,000 to send them to St. Peter's prep, or a little less to St. Benedict's prep. Because you believe that a Catholic education is somehow a better quality education than a public school education here in South Orange and Maplewood. Yet, the Catholic schools are saying, we don't want to implement the Common Core. And if we did, we need to get rid of it. On the flip side, the public schools are saying, let's implement it. It's all about money. It's all about money. You know, they talk about money talks and that, what other stuff, what that other stuff walks, whatever that other stuff is, you know, money talks and that other stuff walks. So what are we to do in South Orange and Maplewood? I mean, back in November, across the country, there was a Stop the Common Core Day. Stop the Common Core. Across the country, people march all across the country because of this Common Core. Because they know that it's like in the middle of the night when you were sleeping, what up? They hoist the Common Core on these different school districts across the country so these big companies could make billions of dollars on our kids. Yes, billions of dollars. And there were many of us silent about the Common Core. I mean, we had a Board of Education election recently. You didn't hear much people talking about the Common Core. I mean, I heard Joanna Wright speaking about the Common Core. I didn't hear anyone else. But you know, Martin Luther King said it succinctly. Our lives begins to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. And Audre Lorde said it even better. It is not our differences that divide us. It's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. Let me repeat that. It is not our differences that divide us. It's our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. You know, in South Orange and Maplewood, you hear, and I keep saying this over and over and over, we talk about why people move into these communities of South Orange and Maplewood. And there may be 3 or 4 reasons. One of the main ones they will say is the school system. Number 2, the train, Maplewood and South Orange, Midtown Direct. 3, they will talk about diversity. And 4, they will talk about the walkability in South Orange and Maplewood, meaning that you can easily walk to the village of Maplewood And you can easily walk to South Orange Village and do dinner, lunch, breakfast, whatever it is, and have a nice time. But some of the first ones they will point to you is diversity. We tout diversity in this community. We talk about how diverse a community South Orange and Maplewood it is, how wonderful it is. Yet, when you try to address that same diversity in the school system, all in a sudden, it doesn't seem that it's diversity anymore. It seems that there is segregation. As they say in Trinidad and Tobago, plain talk, bad manners. It's not diversity anymore, it's segregation. Because we seem that there is two separate school systems within the school system. Because you look at the levels, and you know, some people may not like to hear this. But another quote by Martin Luther King, never, never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishment are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our souls when we look the other way. And I must say, education is a pet peeve of mine because I have told my story over and over and over again. Coming from one of the poorest towns in Trinidad and Tobago. And I give a joke that we were so poor, they dropped the OR. We were just poor. And I had to take that back. Because as poor as we were, we had 3 square meals. However, there were kids in Africa didn't even have half a square of one meal. So I had to take that back. But we were poor comparing to where I grew up. And it's only through an education. And that's why you hear me play the song. The first song in the Village With Anselm on the South Orange Maplewood Online Radio Experience is called I'm Blessed. Because I truly believe from where I came from to where I am now, it's only with the blessings of the Lord. Yes, I truly, truly believe that. But let me play this audio again for you. And it includes our President Barack Obama. He's talking about it. And it's some of the same things with the Common Core. Let's listen.
That one day, this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Segregated schools were and are inferior schools. We still haven't fixed them 50 years after Brown versus Board of Education. And the inferior education they provided, then and now, helps explain the pervasive achievement gap between today's black and white students.
I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today.
When we take those tests, even when black and Latino students score at the top of the distribution, so even when black and Latino students do very well using the biased and absurd indicators that we use in this country, they're still 40% less likely to be put into an advanced placement class or an honors class in high school than white students who scored in the middle of the distribution. So you have average white students, according to this criteria, and of course the criteria is bogus, but understand it's the one we use. Using this criteria, white students who are merely average are still more likely to have advanced or accelerated classes once they get to high school. Now what does that mean? It means that those students are going to get more prepared for the SAT, right? They're going to get more prepared for the ACT, they're going to take the test, and they're going to do better. And we're going to act shocked when people of color do worse on a test that they were systemically excluded from preparing for. As if that is a surprise. I mean, black and Latino students of whatever socioeconomic status, 2.5 times more likely than whites to be put into remedial classes, where they're not going to receive the same instruction, they're not going to have the same coursework, they're not going to be challenged in the same way, right? And so we then act surprised when in 11th grade they take the SAT, the ACT, they don't do as well, and then our society says, what? Well, now you're not capable of going on to college, or at least not that college, because you're not as smart as somebody else over here. The fact that the structure of the educational system guaranteed that you would not do as well, virtually assured it, is something we don't want to talk about. But that's the systemic issue.
You see, and in these communities of South Orange and Maple, we don't want to talk about that. We don't want to talk about our education system and the way it's structured with the levels. Look at the numbers. I mean, I've given you the numbers on the NJAX tests. With advanced proficient, proficient, and partially proficient. Look at the numbers. Look at the numbers for yourself and see what's happening. But it seems like we want to be silent on things that matter. You know, I applaud many people. You know, when they were going to build that $10 million pool, we had to stop the pool. Right? Put out a petition. Stop the pool, man. They didn't build a $10 million pool. When the trustees in South Orange wanted a stipend, my friend out there in South Orange, Michael Goldberg, he had a petition, right? The trustees didn't win. They lost. The trustees didn't get a raise. When you have here Engage Maplewood, they're still engaging the Maplewood trustees regarding the post office. And I see they're going to make the post office one of those historic sites. Just maybe the post office may not, or the building is going to be considered a historic site. But these are the things that you see happening, right? But when it comes to the education system, there's silence. And I always wonder, and I say this over and over and over, the Community Coalition on Race does an excellent job. There are many things that they do an excellent job with. Real estate, they do an excellent job. Having discussion on race, excellent job. As a matter of fact, they're having a cultural festival this coming week. You hear the ad for them. Yeah, they do excellent. But I think one place where they have dropped the ball is on education in this school system of South Orange and Maplewood. They may not like to hear that, but it's the truth. It's the truth, and the numbers tell you that it's the truth. And then, just recently, you see the South Orange Maplewood School District having this survey, another survey. The parent, staff, and community survey. Same survey they had the past 3 years. They're having it for a fourth year to find out what? What they already know. They asked a question about placement, level placement, and the results. It was very unsatisfactory. Very unsatisfactory. People didn't even know how they were placed in different levels. But we continue to just move on to mosey on down the road. There's a song called Mosey on down the road. Yeah, I think it is. With this same type of things. No, we don't have. When are we going to get a new superintendent? We just don't know. New superintendent. Is the achievement gap going to change? Is the leveling system going to change? Are we going to have improvement where kids are going to move from lower levels to higher levels? Kids are going to move up into honors. There's going to be some equal treatment for the kids in the AP classes and the honors classes. You hear the president. The president talked about it. You don't have to take my word for it. You know, some people might say, oh, that wasn't the president. I think Anselm might have forged that tape or something. You know, it's like people saying, let me digress here a little bit. And we're going to forego the commercial break. You know, there are some people who have not even ran a 5-meter dash. You know, 5-meter dash. They never played sport in their life.